Hi everybody, happy Libra Full Moon. I wanted to go ahead and get this video out before it gets any later and I get tired. I don't know how have you been feeling today? Let me ask you, how have you been feeling today? I know with me, it's kind of been a very emotional day. I don't know if it's because my rising sign is Libra. I was really feeling it. And I kind of wanted to share, just want to share what was going on in my head because maybe some of you guys could relate to what I have been experiencing. There's something about this Libra full moon tonight that feels like a mirror, and not a mirror for how we look, but a mirror for who we are. The parts we show, the parts we hide, the parts we're proud of, and the parts we carry in silence. So this morning, I found myself reflecting on yin and yang, on the Hermetic law of opposites, and how everything in life seems to exist in polarity. There's light and shadow, love and fear, discipline and destruction, the hero and the villain. And the truth is, we're all of it. We are the hero in someone's life, and at the same time, we could be the villain in someone else's life. And maybe real healing begins when we stop needing to be only one thing. Wholeness isn't becoming only light, it's becoming honest enough to hold both. Libra is the sign of balance. It's the woman holding the scales. But I don't think balance means perfection. And I don't think balance means becoming all light and no shadow. I think balance means learning to hold opposites without abandoning yourself. And Libra is ruled by the planet Venus, the planet of love, beauty, worth, receptivity, and relationships. So this full moon feels like an invitation to ask, can you love yourself enough to tell the truth about yourself? Can you love yourself enough to see all of you? And not just the polished parts, but the wounded parts, the ashamed parts, the hungry parts, the parts that learn to survive in ways that may have later become destructive. Because maybe this is what Venus is really asking under this full moon. Not, are you beautiful, but can you love what is unfinished in you? This morning, I was also thinking about reality transurfing and the idea of pendulums, these energetic swings that pull us into extremes, one extreme to the other, one identity to the other, one emotion to the other. We get pulled into being too hard or too soft, too controlled or completely lost, too disciplined or total self-destructive. And most people think mastery means resisting the swing, but maybe mastery is not resisting the swing. Maybe the path to mastery is to observe it, to witness the extreme trying to claim you, and then to choose your center. And that feels very Libra to me. Not denial, not repression, not collapse, but conscious center. And strangely enough, this brought me to Batman and Bane. Batman feels like disciplined light, structure, restraint, control, principle. The parts of us that want to master our pain and turn it into order or purpose. And Bane feels like raw shadow, pain without softness, survival without surrender. The part of us shaped by suffering, force, rage, and power. But here's the funny thing, both are born from pain, the pain of feeling powerless. And that's what struck me. The hero and the villain are often made from the same wound. They just express it differently. And if we're being honest, both live in us. There is a Batman in us, the part that wants integrity, discipline, and purpose. And there is a Bane in us, the part that feels cast out, hardened, ashamed, furious, and misunderstood. The question is not whether we have a shadow. The question is whether we are conscious of it. Because what we refuse to face in ourselves doesn't disappear. It goes underground. And from the underground, it starts choosing for us. Are you choosing to be a victim of history or a master of destiny? And this reflection became very personal for me because I've been thinking a lot about my cousin Connie. We lost her to drug and alcohol addiction. and her funeral is tomorrow. I just think, God, she was such a beautiful soul. And I think about, like, she was so good to everybody. She was just, you know, she had this smile where her face would light up, her eyes would light up, and she was so good to everyone. She was so kind, and she was so loving. And what kept moving through my heart is that Connie loved everyone, and she was so good to everyone except herself. And that hurts. That breaks me. It breaks my heart, because that's the quiet tragedy so many carry. And I think a lot of us do it in different ways. So maybe this full moon isn't asking you to become better. Maybe it's asking you to stop abandoning the parts of you that need love the most. Addiction at its core is often not about the substance. It's about the pain without a place to go. Love that was given outward, but never allowed to land inward. And not just addiction to substance, but addiction to escape. Escape from shame, escape from the parts of ourselves that we do not know how to hold. And even if someone has never struggled with drugs or alcohol, so many of us know addiction in another form. Addiction to overthinking, addiction to validation, addiction to chaos, addiction to numbing, addiction to being needed, addiction to sadness, addiction to not enoughness, anything that helps us to avoid sitting fully with ourselves. And I think that's why this full moon today feels so deep, because Libra wants balance. But balance cannot happen when we are at war with our own nature. You're not just loving others, you're learning to turn that love inward, even towards the parts that feel messy, ashamed, or hard to face. That's where the cycle breaks. And loving your shadow does not mean letting it lead. It does not mean romanticizing dysfunction. And it does not mean excusing harm. It means ending the inner exile. It means being able to say, I see the part in me that has learned to cope this way. I see the part of me that became hard. I see the part of me that ran. I see the part of me that was ashamed. I see the part of me that wanted relief. And instead of meeting that part with more hatred, you meet it with awareness and love. Because awareness is what begins to transform what shame has kept frozen. And maybe that is where true compassion begins, not as a performance, not as spiritual bypassing, but as the willingness to stay present with the parts of ourselves we once judged as unlovable. At the Temple of Delphi, there was an inscription, only one inscription, and it was to know thyself. And that was enough. That was the whole teaching. Because to know yourself means to know your light and your shadow, your tenderness and your violence, your grace and your hunger, your discipline and your destruction, your beauty and your brokenness. To know yourself is not to reduce yourself. It is to become intimate with the truth of your own nature. And maybe that matters so much, because what is not known cannot be loved properly. And what is not loved properly is often what we try to escape. So perhaps know thyself is not just wisdom, perhaps it is mercy. And maybe this is where a different level of understanding begins. Not when we become perfect, not when we become pure light, not when we erase every flaw, but when we can hold the tension of opposites inside ourselves without collapsing into either side. When we can witness the pendulum and choose our center. When we can love the part of ourselves that once wanted to run. When we can forgive the parts of ourselves that did not know how to stay. When we can stop identifying only with our wounds and start relating to them with consciousness. This is transformation, not self-rejection, not self-improvement built on shame, but self-knowing, self-honesty, self-love that is deep enough to include what hurts. So tonight, under this Libra full moon, maybe the invitation is this: to come back to center, to stop making war with your shadow, to stop abandoning the parts of you that most need your love, to stop swinging unconsciously between extremes, to stop believing you must only be light to be worthy. You are not here to become one-sided. You are here to become whole. And for anyone who has struggled with addiction or loves someone who has, maybe the deepest healing begins when love is finally turned inward. And maybe freedom begins when we no longer need to escape ourselves. And maybe the soul's real work is this: to know thyself, to love thyself, and from that love to transform. This full moon isn't asking you to be perfect. It's asking you to be honest enough to become whole. Thank you for joining me today to hear my ramblings of what was going on in my head this morning on this Libra full moon. And let me know how today has been treating you. Yeah, I would love to know. And subscribe. My content is a little bit of everything, everything that goes on in my head and things that I'm interested in, things that I like. Again, thank you for joining me here this evening. Happy Libra full moon. Thank you. Bye.